So before getting into the outline of my previous presentation and the best resource that have shaped my understanding of the phenomenon, I feel it's important to share the moment that sparked my fascination with this subject matter. A few years ago, I had a chance conversation with my professor at Johns Hopkins, and she told me that she believes in UFOs and aliens because her brother was in the Air Force, and that the common belief in the Air Force was that UFOs are real and aliens have been monitoring us for quite some time. And so the reason I'm relaying this is because I realized it takes just one credible voice to pierce the veil of skepticism about UFOs. And once you begin examining the evidence, the depth and breadth of documentation makes it impossible to return to comfortable disbelief. And so this presentation traces my journey down this fascinating mystery and invites you all to come down this rabbit hole with me and examine the most compelling evidence that transformed my own understanding of what might be possible. And I probably shouldn't even mention this, but last year I traveled to Brazil and had a chance interaction with a high-ranking member of the Brazilian government, leaving that intentionally ambiguous, but a very high-ranking member. And as the night was getting late, drinks were flowing, I had figured I had nothing to lose, and all I asked to this high-ranking member of the Brazilian government was, "Have you ever heard of the town Varginha?" And his direct response after I said that, he stared into my soul and said, "The UFO shit is fucking crazy, bro. That's all I'll say." And then he walked away. I had to do my best James Fox impression, but that reaction meant a lot to me, considering the Varginha 1996 case, and the documentary Moment of Contact is what started pulling me down this rabbit hole in the first place a few years ago. And so a guide to understanding this 1996 Varginha Brazil case, a big part of my media brand revolves around creating comprehensive resources like this one. For the Varginha case alone, I've compiled dozens of sources across all media types, from docs to podcast episodes and news clips and academic articles. I've done this systematically for over 50 major UFO cases, organizing the best content by type and credibility. And this approach allows anyone interested in the topic to efficiently access quality information rather than falling down random YouTube rabbit holes. And again, I have sorted this all out on my UFO specific website, thisandthatphenomenon.com. And so the Substack of written analysis, this is where I publish my essays and articles analyzing various UFO cases and theories. I've written pieces on the Varginha 1996 UFO crash, Project Blue Book, the congressional UAP hearings, and a review on what I think is the most comprehensive documentary on this subject matter, the phenomenon, and of course my pinned 20-pager, Seeking the Origin of UFOs. And my Substack actually serves as a gateway to my broader research with the vast spreadsheets and other social media posts attached to every article I publish. And so speaking of compelling cases, the 1996 Varginha Brazil incident was one of the first cases that truly opened my understanding after watching James Fox's documentary Moment of Contact and Joe Rogan episode 1976. And those two pieces of media will have you asking the question, did aliens land in Brazil in 1996? And if you consume both of those pieces, you're going to be thinking what I am, that the answer is yes. And so the Varginha case represents what many researchers consider Brazil's Roswell incident. And what makes this case so compelling is a number of credible witnesses, including military personnel, hospital staff, and civilians who all reported seeing strange beings after a UFO crash. 3 young women encountered one of these entities at close range, and their testimonies remain consistent to this day. A military officer who handled one of these beings allegedly died from a mysterious infection with unknown neurotoxins weeks later. His name is Marco Cherez. And the town itself has a UFO statue in the middle of it. And the mayor is on tape in Moment of Contact saying he believes that this happened, that the U.S. Air Force is said to have swooped in and taken the beings, and it might be the most compelling encounter of the third kind ever recorded. I've analyzed this case through multiple sources, including James Fox's Moment of Contact and the Y-Files video on it. The evidence includes hospital records, military testimonies, and physical traces that suggest something truly extraordinary happened in this small Brazilian town. And so especially with James Fox's recent re-release of Moment of Contact, which features doctor testimony that they indeed did recover a live alien. So the podcast episode and documentary that catalyzed my journey a couple years ago was Joe Rogan episode 1976 with James Fox and Fox's film The Phenomenon. And so in these two pieces alone, over 30 significant UFO cases are mentioned, providing an excellent starting point for anyone beginning their research. The cases range from 1947 Roswell incident, the mass sighting at Westall School in Australia, to the 2004 USS Nimitz Tic Tac encounter, the 1994 aerial school school incident in Zimbabwe, where over 60 school children reported seeing a landed craft and beings. Other important cases mentioned in the phenomenon are the 1950 McMinnville, Oregon, which are highlighted by the iconic Trent photos, the Lonnie Zamora case in 1964, Socorro, New Mexico, the Rendlesham Forest case of 1980, the Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota, 1953 case, Stephenville, Texas, mass sighting in 2008, Chicago O'Hare Airport UFO in 2006, Sao Paulo, 1986, which has been dubbed the Night of the UFOs, Malmstrom Air Force Base in 1967, the Belgian UAP wave from 1989 to 91, the Phoenix Lights mass sighting in 1997, and the DC sightings in 1952, colloquially dubbed UFOs over the White House. And so these cases are some of the most known cases in UAP history, but they are just a fraction of the dozens I have researched, and an even smaller fraction of the recorded UFO events in modern history. Many of these cases are particularly compelling because of the quality and quantity of witnesses, often supported by radar data, physical evidence, and official documentation. And so, A Guide to Understanding the Best UFO Documentarian of All Time, James Fox. He has established himself as probably the premier documentary filmmaker in the UFO world. His work stands out for its journalistic integrity and focus on credible witnesses and documented cases. Beyond his films like The Phenomenon, Moment of Contact, I Know What I Saw, and Out of the Blue, Fox has appeared on numerous major media outlets and podcasts advocating for transparency. This guide collects his best interviews, clips, and articles for those wanting to understand his research process and findings, and Fox has interviewed hundreds of military witnesses, government officials, and scientific experts over his decades-long career, building relationships that have helped bring previously classified information to light.